even in 2021, you're able to relate with them. This is really relatable. Then you have anxiety and depression. Again, these 2 points are linked together. Then you have love. Yes, this could be one of the reasons that perhaps the poet has been complaining that he's not been able to sleep. And then you have prayer, meditation. Some of the, you know, resolution to your problems, some solution, possible ways to look up to. And then you reach the height of spirituality because you try to connect with God. A lot of people say when you are at your weakest, only then you realize your true strength. And such is the idea of this poem as well. But over here, I need to tell you something very strongly, that Samuel Taylor Coleridge, he was the iconic poet of the 17th century, which is known as the Romantic era. So I would like to tell you before we read the attitudes, I know I'm scrolling the page up. This is the idea that you need to know about. This is called laudanum. I repeat, laudanum. This is a kind of a drug that is taken when the person, back in the time in the 17th century, it was certain way of treating up your sleepless nights or insomnia. So what happened, that since he was the greatest of all the poets, all the critics, people used to look up to him as a role model. But once he indulged in taking this opium tincture, opium, this is a drug, okay, and which at the time was used as a medicine. You see, this 17th century was a great revolution in the field of science as well. There were some diseases and there were some, scientific ways in which they wanted to treat them. Now it is illegal. Our lovely poet, Mr. Coleridge, thought that, this could be my only solution to the problem. The problem in his life was um, his unhappy marriage, and he had a secret affair with one of his best friends' wife, and we are not being given details of of the lady, but there was a conflict in his life. So, an incomplete relationship, and already his unhappy marriage to Sarah Fricker, whom he eventually separated from after their fourth child. He was unable to balance in between his physical relationships. At the same time, he was not connected spiritually with God as well. This is the poem written at that time when he's coming back to God. He's anchoring on and holding on to the spirit that only life and death, God versus our evil thoughts, our wrong intentions, can only be the ways in which we can overcome. So over here, Coleridge, poor he, became addicted to laudanum. People started thinking that he is on drugs, and they stopped taking him as an inspirational writer or a poet. It is said that some of the side effects of opium withdrawal are nightmares and extremely depressive moods. Hmm. Keep this part in your mind. This document will be shared to you. But whenever we start up a poem, you need to realize some of its, um, historical background about the poet. Every single time we don't know about the poet, we don't understand anything when it comes to the poem. So we need to have a bit of an idea, why was he writing this poem, at what phase of his life. So it is possible that the poem is written during a phase of trying to recover from his laudanum addiction. Interestingly, we have a critic. What is critic basically? Critic is a person who would definitely reflect and ponder upon the works of the writer or a poet and come up with some sort of suggestion. So critic, um, that means a person who writes criticism. Richard Holmes suggests that Coleridge's nightmares were the result of opium withdrawal. When he wanted to return to life and he stopped taking his use of this drug. And therefore, there is a line that he uses out of guilt and fear. Over here, do you have any questions? Please tell me. Have you understood why was he writing this poem? Have you understood why was he writing this poem? Not exactly, because let me share with you one of the slides also. So I'm waiting. Can you please let me know a bit of an idea that you got? An overview? Yes or no? Can we please write in the chat box? I will be so thankful. Can we please write in the chat box? Manur, are you there with me? Azhar Khalid?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Laudanum, did you understand, beta? What is laudanum?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Can you please tell me that Coleridge was right in his actions withdrawing from the drug?
Yes, miss. I think that his career and his whole life was on stake because of that particular drug, and it was right for him to withdraw from it. Although all the side effects he faced, like we feel pity for him, but I think that it was right of him to do so.
Aliza Anwar says, thank you, Manur, for adding up your productive, comment. He became a drug addict because of his unhappy love life and started writing poems of his misery. Yes, and I do remember one of the students in our class, she interpreted that the pains of sleep are so, let's say, miserable that he's clasping onto the sheet and with this image you can actually relate with what he was going through. So this is a presentation which I uh, did in my last class. However, I was remaining with two aspects. Yeah, I know I haven't come up to the poem yet. I am reading for sure, but I need to tell you some of the methods. We just did a bit of an intro about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So I'm going to skip this. You can read it by yourself in that way. Definitely the themes which are being explored. This is an important part. When he writes poem, he uses a conversational pattern. That means you are connecting with God. You don't need any third party to let you communicate. He's not entering a church. He's not going to any public place where he could make his confession. It is just him and God in his room. So this highlight is quite interesting because he would be using I'm not reading the whole thing, but I'm requesting you. I've already done this part. I will be uploading this in today's right after today's class, so you can read and check it out. So colloquial, spontaneous, and respectful. Respectful, why? Because he's talking to God. Coleridge's conversation poetry is also highly personal, frequently incorporated event and details of his domestic life in an effort to widen the scope of possible poetic content. What is interesting that my PowerPoint presentation and the document can combine together your excellent 25-mark analysis. And this is how you're going to improvise with your answering techniques as well. Another aspect of this poem that you will be exploring is prayer, because you need to be submissive rather than getting out of obviously you have to get out of your higher level of thinking that you have reached to a certain position in your career. Now this is I would like Azhar Khalid. Azhar Khalid, I hope you're there with us. Azhar Khalid, I would like you to read the slide, please, the one that is being shown on the screen.
Although Coleridge's prose reveals more of his religious philosophizing than his poetry, God, Christianity, and the act of prayer appear in some form in nearly all of his poems. The son of an Anglican vicar Coleridge vacillated from supporting to criticizing Christian tenets and the Church of England. Despite
Okay,
his criticisms,
thank you. I would like to just be there with me. Just hold on. I would like to correct some of the things over here. Not to you. I just want to clarify and give you expression. Thank you for giving it a good try in reading. Please try to understand. It explores a very religious issue also, right? When it talks about morality, if a person has indulged into wrong activity, don't you think he has the ability to return to God? Don't you think he has the right to correct himself? There is an evil eye inside every human being. So that is the concept he's talking about, that the philosophical part of this poem is religion that he explores in his poetry. God, Christianity, and the act of prayer appear in some form. When you read his poem, you would realize in any ways his idea will definitely be sparking in the background. The son of Anglican Visar. Anglicans are those who belong to the Christian church, and there is a concept of a father in it. You must have seen the slanted ceilings of the church, and there's a cross. Everyone has seen, but there's another church type which is called Catholics. Catholic Pope, you must have seen. It has a round shaped dome, right? We're not talking about Catholics, but rather we are talking about Anglican. People who have the concept of a father and a confession box in the church. And there you have Visar, of a higher ranking religious person. So the son of Anglican Visar, like his father, happens to be belonging to the church. He was the child of the church in that way. The family belonged to the church. So people started criticizing how come, being the son of Anglican Visar, he could use drugs. So they started criticizing, screaming, and shouting. He was losing his career and his life. Coleridge vacillated from supporting to criticizing Christian tenets. He has written a lot of work, and the Church of England. Despite his criticisms, Coleridge remained defiantly supportive of prayer. The act of praying is releasing, is relieving, it's purifying. This is the concept. This poem was written in 1803, and it contrasts the speaker at restful prayer, in which he prays silently, with the speaker at passionate prayer, in which he battles. So he's battling imaginary demons to pray aloud. And in the sad poem Epitaph, this is another poem. So um, let's just get started with the reading of the poem so that you can understand even better, because I have shared more or less a lot of ideas together. I'm going to start. I will stop at any point, and I would like to tell you that this poem is written in three long stanzas. We have three long stanzas because why? Why? Every time in literature we have the concept of why, because it talks about the three nights loaded with his nightmares. So he's telling us a story about his three nights. It's almost like um, he's describing the diction. The classical diction has been used over here. As you can see, it stands for here. Okay, so I just want you to notice that do we have any rhyming towards the end of the line or not? Do we have a rhyming lay, pray, knees, degrees? Then I'm going to tell you why. So you're looking at the shape of the poem as well. Why? Because the lines appear better, shorter. The lines are not elaborate. We're gonna find out again why. Every time we have a why. So let's just start with reading. Everyone, please be alert. Hold on to your horses. This is the first night. Okay, let's read the first night. On my bed, my limbs I lay. It hath not been my use to pray with moving lips or bended knees. I did not take pause over here because the idea is running from the second line to the third line, so I have to connect. Here on my bed, my limbs I lay. It hath means has. It has not been my use to pray with moving lips or bended knees. He's criticizing to those people who pose in front of everyone. Look, I'm one of the religious persons. I can do it. It's not a show off. It's the heartly communication between him and God. But silently, by slow degrees, my spirit I too love compose, in humble trust mine eyelids close, with reverational resignation, no wish conceived, no thought expressed, no thought expressed. This is the classical diction, that's why the spellings are different. Only a sense of supplication, a sense over all my soul impressed that I am weak, yet not unblessed, yet I am weak, yet not unblessed. Since in me, round me, everywhere eternal strength and wisdom are. It starts with a very hopeless idea. Do you understand what is he trying to communicate over here? Any idea, any thought that I would like to have from you, please don't be afraid to give wrong answers. We are trying and we are trying our best. Can anyone tell me what do you think? Just imagine Samuel Taylor Coleridge is sitting by the side of his bed. He's just positioning himself and he's kneeling his. I'm not really good of an artist, but just imagine Christians making prayer by the side of the bed and kneeling down on the floor. And he just wants to go to his sleep. And he's making up this prayer. It's Is it at times slow and steady in his in the pace? Let's just dig in more so that you're able to understand, okay? Line by line. I want one more reading. I want someone else to read with a bit of high and low so that you can understand even better. He's talking about that even he is weak. This is Aliza Anwar's response. He's talking about that even he is weak to pray and he's hopeless, but there are still good things around him. Indeed, beta, yes. This is the psychological insight that we are given. And I would like to just mention over here a few things. With every poem, beta, with every poem, you have language and style. I will be commenting on language and style. Okay, so let's just comment on the language. Let's have a look at it. It begins in the present tense and the past tense. Please do let me know. I'm asking you questions. Does it make use of present tense or the past tense? Here on my bed, my limbs I lay. It has not been my use to pray with moving lips or bended knees, but silently, by slow degrees. Hmm. So he's switching in between present and past, but most dominatingly, it's the present situation. So the situation is a recent one. It's the problem, and it's the recent one. The short line I've got, um, it's not end stop line. This is called beta caesura. Caesura means a strong pause. What do we mean by this pause? This means that it's almost like I'm taking a slow movement into just about to tell the depthness of my heart to my God, just opening up. So he takes a little bit of dramatic pause and then he is about to open up. So he says, are on my bed. It hath not been my. So we have my. So you can see I'm commenting on language. This is called possessive pronoun. This is what do we call beta? Possessive pronoun. That it talks about his personalized experience. I'm writing over here. This entails about his, please make bullet points, personalized experience, what he had been and not anyone else. But is the conjunction of contrast that shows the other side of the picture. How you are making bullet points, beta? You're making points by simply writing down first stanza important points. My possessive pronoun had been repetitively used in order to emphasize upon his own issue, that is his restless night, which is insomnia. Okay, my spirit, again he uses I too love compose in humble trust. When you talk with God, the conversation is quite reverential. So I'm going to raise this part so that we can continue and look at the language in more detail. Okay, the answer has been ready. And before I dig into the answer, I need to tell you this conversational pattern, this conversational pattern is quite, loaded with reverential. It's reverent or reverential attitude that he explores with God. Reverential means this is R. It means quite respectful. It means quite respectful because you're talking to God. That's how it has been communicated. But this technique is known as alliteration. Alliteration means, please understand, when in consecutively we have two words or more words starting with the same sound with reverential resignation. This is called alliteration. And what effect does it create? It creates an effect of submissiveness. When you are praying to God, you need to totally trust upon His power, H capital, His power, His strength, and you need to resign from the worldly connections, and then you need to submit yourself in the custody, in the protection of God. So this language is creating effect. No wish conceived, no thought expressed, only a sense of supplication. Supplication means, again, we are emphasizing on being submissive, being humble, being forgiven. The idea that there is one power which is not going to turn you back. So, only a sense over all my soul impressed that I am weak. It's again human. Humans are weak, not only in their anatomy, but also, in spirit. Beta, you need to remember one thing, that this was the age of enlightenment also. Romantic era, people were writing about God and spirituality. Every writer was trying to explore their connection, but still science was still sparking in the background. There were strong signs of industrial revolution. People were progressing towards materialism, advancements. He's still anchoring on that I need to know one responsibility, and that is towards God. Sense in me, round me everywhere. Sense is used as a connector, as if he's holding an argument with his inner self. So please write it down that it's a connective, it's a linking word which is used as if, as if, or you use the word perhaps. In English literature or language, you use certain expressions in order to show the possibility of your interpretation. You never force it. You never force it. Yes, beta. Okay. I need to stop here. Can you please tell me? I just need you to tell me whether you can hear me or not. Manur is texting beta. She can't hear me. Mm, okay. I can repeat beta. Yeah, maybe, maybe. Unstable, maybe. Can you rejoin us, Manur? I would request you. Okay, thank you.
Miss,
Thank
can
you.
you repeat what you just said?
Yes, I'm repeating that this linking word, which is right over here, since. Since is taken as a linking word, and it seems, it perhaps appears as if he is holding an argument, as if these are the two expressions which you use so that you can emphasize on the possibility of interpretation. Because let's suppose there are 30 students in my class, everyone will be writing it is, it shows. You have to show the possibility of interpretation. Perhaps he is holding an argument with his conscience, or you can also say conscience, which is inner self. You know, it's that there are two layers of human self. One is the outer layer, which is really, you know, displaying its, you know, I'm using itself in a way that it's always a matter of connecting with the world. But there is an inner self which is also always going to ring you that there's something bad, there's something wrong going on, and you need to remedy the situation. So now from the present tense, we are switching towards the past tense because we are talking about yesternight. That means last night. But again, conjunction of contrast. Conjunction of contrast to show the contrary idea. But yesternight, but yesternight I prayed aloud in anguish and in agony, upstarting from the fiendish crowd of shapes and thoughts that tortured me. A lurid light, a trampling throng, sense of intolerable wrong, and whom I scorn, those only strong. Thirst of revenge, the powerless will still baffled, and yet burning still. Desire with loathing strangely mixed on, I repeat again, desire with loathing is strangely mixed on wild or hateful objects fixed. Fantastic passions, maddening brawl, and shame and terror over all. This is what? This is not the complete stanza, let me tell you. This is the reaction of the public being aware, being aware that Coleridge had been consuming opium, which was given to him initially as a treatment, laudanum, we are talking about it, and they are resisting, they are retaliating. I prayed aloud in anguish, in agony. So we have got g sounds, and the glottal sounds are creating an impression of what, beta? Difficulty, of a struggle. It's creating more of a grotesque image. It's savage, it's wild. People are not happy with him. Upstarting from the fiendish crowd. So he's calling it evil, devilish, devilish crowd of shapes and thoughts. So basically, he dreamt. This is his dream, that of different people from all over the place that tortured me. Suzora, you have a Suzora, a strong pause, because he's hesitating, he's threatened, he's being startled. It's not always a dramatic pause. You have to connect. When a person gets frightened in his sleep, a little dozed off, I know we have been talking that he's been restless, but in his dream, he has expressed again, what is this I just told you? If two words start with the same sound, what do we call them? What do we call them? Alliteration. This alliteration, a lurid light, a trampling throng, sense of intolerable wrong. You know, there was kind of a sign he was receiving, almost it's symbolic. It's symbolic. Sense of intolerable wrong. And whom I scorned, those only strong. So people and the critics, I mean, he was receiving a lot of criticism, right? And he was one person against so many people, and he uses this exclamatory mark to convey his element of shock and ultimate realization that I was wasting my time and energy because there were too many in number. Thirst of revenge. This is another theme. This is human characteristic. And thirst of revenge, the powerless will still baffled, only the powerless has to suffer. I am powerless. I've been struggling with mental illness. Yes, I had been on opium, but is this the morality of the society? So he's questioning his Vita, questioning. I need to erase a bit part so that you can understand even better. Okay, he's questioning the hypocrisy or the double standardness of the society. Where is the morality? What kind of people are we that we make the powerless suffer? These are two contrasting ideas, strong and powerless. And he is using, देखो, whenever you will come across will, that shows determination. That shows that the society is confirmed upon the uniformed idea that the powerless has to suffer. And yet burning, I mean, still this fire is not putting out in any way or form. And then he talks about desire with loathing. So yeah, we're gonna stop right here. We're gonna stop here. Desire with loathing strangely mixed on wild or hateful objects fixed. Fantastic passions, maddening brawl. So people were indulged into this verbal arguments. It was kind of like debate all over him about his passions and shame and terror. This was the phase in his life where he has to confront, humiliation. He felt mortified and with exclamatory mark. So is the concept of the second night clear a bit? The entire analysis is just below this concept, but I'm telling you how we need to look at the language, and we are connecting everything with the context of the poem. Maddening brawl and shame and terror. So if you notice, beta, that I'm going to teach you this new characteristic which is called, in this poem, the semantic field of spirituality has been used. What do we mean by semantic field? The words, the collection of words, the meanings which they are creating, the effects which they are creating is all leading to one soulful idea, and that is spirituality. That with everything, no matter what, he's giving us, देखो, whenever you have comma, you're giving a list like effect. You're giving a list like effect. Guilt, remorse, or woe. My own or others is still the same. People and my family, they have renounced me. They're not here with me. So he's kind of complaining and he's being hurt. This is the end of the second night. My own or others is still the same. Life is stifling fear, soul stifling shame. My marriage did not work out. My career, my poems have not yet been published. I mean, he has reached. Can you imagine Samuel Taylor Coleridge inspired William Wordsworth to write poems? Back in the time, if I mean, William Wordsworth, everyone knows. I mean, I know I'm giving you an overstatement, but yeah, more or less everyone knows about William Wordsworth, but they would hardly know about Coleridge. Poor he's the one who actually inspired him. So 2 nights passed. The night's dismay saddened and stunned the coming day. So he's using all those consonant sounds, and now he's using s, s, s. This is dismay, but these are stunned, sleep, blessing, seemed, distemper, worst, a collection of S sounding words, soft sounding words are known as the sibilant sounds. Sibilant sounds are basically the S sounding words. So you have all these either they're in the middle and they have grouped together to create what kind of an effect? Sibilant sounds create a hush effect or a sinister effect, something evil or devilish yet to approach. Who is going to tell me which one would you choose? The collection of the sibilant sounds is creating a hush effect as if he's tired or he's giving up. Is he giving up talking to God? No. Hush effect as if he has spoken his heart out and he has come to calm himself. Or is it sinister effect that with each passing day sadness gets stronger? I mean, it just keeps on building up tension for him. Which one would you choose? Hush effect or sinister effect? Now, I want to see some of the comments in the chat box. If you haven't heard the question, you can ask me again. Is it a hush effect? Like calming, soothing? You're thinking. It's good that you're thinking. You're taking a bit of time also. One person popped in the chat box. I think sinister because everything is taking over him. It's definitely, it takes a toll. But still, Aliza, if you give multiple interpretation, examiners love it. 1 point, multiple interpretations, um, examiner would love it. So it's sinister effect because it's almost like have you heard like in Harry Potter series when Voldemort says he hardly shouts. Whenever he's approaching, he comes like this and all that. He's always really, viciously and savagely evil. Evil spirits, they have a very, you know, it's almost like, soul stifling. It's almost like giving you goosebumps. So perhaps he's whispering in his heart. He's taken out all of his anger, or he's opened up his heart and in front of God, and therefore he finds a bit of relaxation. And here we are on the third night. I know I have 5 minutes remaining. I need to connect with my next class as well. So last 5 minutes, a quick recap. So we'll be continuing the third stanza, and we are going to come towards a resolution for his problem. Um, The resolution comes with his extreme um, experience. The third night, when my own loud scream had waked me from the fiendish dream, this was an extreme level of paranoia. He was paranoid. He had witnessed a nightmare, overcome with suffering strange and wild. I wept as I had been a child, and having thus by tears subdued my anguish to a milder mood, such punishment I said were due to natures deeply stained with sin, for a intempesting. So we're gonna do this tomorrow. This is going to be continued. Um, a happy note. Yes, please. Not the link. I'm gonna share this. I'm just sharing it right now. See, these are all the words meaning, story, summary, and the speaker, the voice, the language, the structure form. Then you have context. You have every single thing to make yourself as resourceful as it is possible. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.